All right, welcome back to another Out of the Park Baseball 18 tutorial. Sorry, 19. Out of the Park Baseball 19. And you'll notice that I am not an Out of the Park Baseball today, and that is why, and the reason for that is that I'm explaining a real life concept, and that is the concept of service time and what that means in cases of arbitration and when a player hits free agency. So, I've kind of recorded this video before. I wasn't happy about it. It's the CBA, which is the collective bargaining agreement, is complicated. So I've tried to make it as simple as possible to explain something that's extremely complicated. So what I've listed here is 3 trajectories, and these are trajectories that a player can go on for their first 6 or 7 years before they hit free agency, okay? The first one I've titled the CBA Trajectory, and this is what the CBA promises. The CBA in its bylaws says once a player accrues 6 years of service time in Major League Baseball, they are eligible for free agency that season, that following season. So I've brought to you what is kind of a very rare case, but it is a real life case, and it's Austin Jackson. And what he did is he got called up on opening day 2010, okay? Very few players make their debuts on opening day, and the ones that do are usually like international free agents who've already signed big contracts or stuff like that. But not a guy doesn't get called from the minor leagues and make his debut on opening day very often. Okay, I think like Scott Kingery did it this year, and relievers may do it, but a guy like Austin Jackson, it's super uncommon. So, and once he gets called up, his clock starts running. So at the end of 2010, he is at 1 year. Okay, end of 2011, he's at 2 years. And the end of 2012, he's at 3 years. Now, the CBA states that between the 3 and 6 years, you are arbitration eligible. So you can see these 3 years, he basically earned league minimum or around that. Okay, if you see anyone who's making, say, under, 600,000, they're on league minimum. They may have little rewards in their contract for, I don't know, playing well, or maybe winning, coming in second in Rookie of the Year voting, but these guys' base salary, at the very least, is the league minimum. Now you'll see his salary goes up in 2013, and that's because he, for the first time, was able to go to arbitration. Now what arbitration means is, arbitration is a means of players earning more than the league minimum, okay? When you go to arbitration, it's going to be your first time to earn more than that 500,000 or 550 or 575 or whatever it is. So what happens is you can go into negotiations with your team. So Austin Jackson was at the time on the Detroit Tigers. He went to them, and at some point they agreed that he was worth $3.5 million for the following season. So he signed on for that. If the two can't agree on a number, they will go to an arbitration battle in which the team will submit a number and the player will submit a number, and an independent arbiter will actually decide the player's value. Everyone will sort of state their case as to why player X should make more or less money than he thinks he does. And so that's how it works. So when you go to the arbitration screen in Out of the Park Baseball, you have an option to submit or change your number. If you submit a number and the player likes it, you effectively skip arbitration and just agree then and there on the spot. Or you go to arbitration and the arbiter decides. So we don't know the means of how this was decided, but it was decided in 2013 he earned $3.5 million, 2014 $6 million, 2015 $7.7 million. Okay, that's a pretty reasonable sort of boost in pay. Usually guys will earn about 20% more, but as you can imagine, if you have a great season, you're going to earn a little bit more. So here he earned $3.5 million in 2013, but he put up a 3.7 win season, so he's going to earn a little bit more than. He's going to get a nice boost, so he goes up to $6 million. Now he only puts up 1.7 wins, and he gets a more reasonable boost, up to $7.7 million, okay? So after 2015, and he's bounced around now, okay? He played some of 2014 with the Mariners. He finished his 2015 with the Cubs. And he started with the Tigers, but don't pay any attention to that. Just know that he played 6 full seasons in the major leagues, and he was made a free agent. 6 full seasons in the major leagues, 3 years of those arbitration eligible. As you can see, he took our CBA trajectory, and in order to do that, you basically have to get called up on opening day. So he accrued his 6 years. Now he's a free agent. Bam. And he signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with the White Sox. That's the end of the story. Dallas Keuchel, different story. What I have Dallas Keuchel on is what I would call the normal trajectory. He got called up at some point midway through the year in 2012. Pitched for the Astros, made some of that, made basically league minimum. 2013, league minimum. 2014, league minimum. Now, you might say to yourself, well, he did his 3 years. How come he doesn't get arbitration in 2015? How come he has to settle for this $524,000? He got called up midway through the year. So what his service time clock was not 3 years after 2014. It was basically 2 and a fraction. And I'm going to say that a lot. I'm going to say X and a fraction because that's an important distinction to make. It wasn't 3, it was 2 and a fraction. So he was not arbitration eligible. So he had to play out this full year, $524,000. And what did he do? He won a Cy Young. So the Astros basically paid a guy $500,000 a year to win the Cy Young. So that's a good deal. So now he goes into arbitration, and he, he's feeling good. He makes $7.2 million coming off his Cy Young win. That's a lot of money to make in your first year of arbitration because you're going to expect this to climb. Continues to pitch well, $9.1 million, $13 million right now. Okay. Now, from his perspective, he played a significant portion of 2012. He pitched 85 innings. That's enough to make your presence known. Okay, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. This is 6 years right here. Okay, Austin Jackson played 6 years in the majors. Why doesn't Dallas Keuchel become a free agent after 6 years? Well, because after 2017, his service time clock was not 6. It was 5 and a fraction. Okay, we don't know that exact fraction, but it was 5 and a fraction, So he was not free agency eligible. He was arbitration eligible because he was between that 3 and 6 years, but he was not free agency eligible. So what's happening with Keuchel here is he's playing in 7 different major league seasons. Okay, Austin Jackson only played in 6, but Dallas Keuchel's playing in 7. So that's kind of why what I would call the CBA trajectory is bullshit. It never really turns out that way. Because players don't usually get called up to start on opening day. They get called up midway through years, so guys usually end up playing 6.5, close to 7 years before they actually hit free agency. All right, and so now we got that out of the way. Let's take a look at Kris Bryant. Kris Bryant. One of the most sort of infamous cases of what you would maybe call service time manipulation if you were being, very critical of the team. So let's take a look at the Cubs. So the Cubs in 2015, he played 151 games for the Cubs. Wow, that's a full season's workload, right? Wrong. Not in the view of the service time clock. In 2015, the Cubs kept Kris Bryant down for 2 weeks. They said he had a nice spring training. They said he needs to go back down to AAA and he needs to work on his defense. And he went and he worked on his defense. And boy, did he learn a lot those 2 weeks because he came up, he made the All-Star game. He finished 11th in MVP voting. He won Rookie of the Year easily. But he did not accrue a full year of service time. Okay, this is still viewed as a fraction. As ridiculous as this is to say, he played a full season for them. He, gained MVP votes. He won Rookie of the Year. He made an All-Star game. He did not play, in the eyes of the service time clock rules, a full season because he did not start opening day with them. So his clock was a fraction. Okay. 2016, he makes $652,000. Let's pretend his base salary here is still the league minimum. He probably makes some nice, a little extra $150,000 from incentives like winning Rookie of the Year or making an All-Star game, things of that nature. But yeah, so here we go. League minimum year, 2017, another league minimum year. Wow. He made $1 million total, but that was, probably for winning MVP. You get a nice little bonus for winning MVP. So Cubs pay him, they pay him about $500,000 here, so a little over $2 million over the course of 3 years to absolutely tear it up for him from 2015 to 2017. Now, 2018, he actually has unlocked arbitration, and we don't know if I don't know if he went in the Cubs and they agreed on $10.8 million. I don't know if he went to arbitration and did his little court case thing, and then where everyone pled their case and the arbiter decided. I don't know. It's not really important for what I'm describing in this video, but $10.8 million was the agreed upon number. Now, Kris Bryant, in the eyes of the service clock, did not play 3 years up until then, okay? He played 2 and a fraction. But his fraction here was very big that he qualified for Super 2 cutoff. Now the Super 2 cutoff changes every year, but it basically says that he's played, while he may have not accrued 3 years of service time in Major League Baseball, that he can still be arbitration eligible. And the way it works is that all players between 2 to 3 years of service time on their clocks, like Kris Bryant was following the 2017 season, he was between 2 and 3 years, he was 2 and a fraction. The top 22% in terms of service clock become Super 2 eligible, so they can still get their arbitration money early, provided that they've played in the top 22% of playing time for all players with service clocks between 2 and 3 years. It's fucking complicated, and that's why it's such a pain in the ass to explain. If you want to avoid that Super 2 cutoff, it changes every year, but I would say wait until June 5th / the draft, anywhere around then if you want to call a guy up. Because if the Cubs had called Kris Bryant up on, let's say, June 15th, he would not be arbitration eligible in 2018. He would still be making, $500,000, $550,000 base salary, but he wasn't. But he was called up after what I call that service time boost, which is 2 weeks into the season. So if you're playing the game, and once again, that date actually changes every year, but if you want to play it safe, call someone up after April 16th, middle of April, you're good to go, and you'll get an extra year of team control. So as you can see, Dallas Keuchel was under basically 7 seasons of team control. Okay, Austin Jackson only 6 because he was called up on opening day. Dallas Keuchel 7, and Kris Bryant will actually be held under 7 years of team control, even though the CBA says 6, right? Isn't that crazy? That's just how the service time clock works. So actually what Kris Bryant is looking at right here, he's going to arbitrate. He's got arbitration year 2018. That's agreed upon. He'll arbitrate again in 2019. He'll arbitrate again in 2020. And he'll arbitrate again in 2021, believe it or not. And that's how long Kris Bryant has to work before he could possibly hit the open market and make a shit ton of money. He could still make a lot of money in arbitration because he's playing so well, but it's still not going to be as much as he would earn on the free market right now. Like if Kris Bryant were somehow magically made a free agent, he would sign on to a team for 10 years and he would make like $50 million a year, $55 million a year, something like that. Let's take a look at Javy, another Cubs player. Javy, as you can see, accrued some playing time in 2014 and 2015. Pretty crazy, right? 2016, league minimum. 2017, league minimum. 2018, league minimum. So he's basically played in 5 different seasons right now, or he will at the end of 2018. He's playing 5 different seasons right now, and he's still not arbitration eligible. So as you can see here, he, if you look at him after 2017, he had 2 full years here, basically, and then these 2 still combine to a fraction. They don't get him up to 3 years, and they don't get him up to Super 2. So he's going to have a long time from his MLB debut to when he can make arbitration, and an even longer time from his MLB debut to when he can actually become a free agent. So now that we understand that, now that we know what arbitration is, we can talk about the actual process of extending players when they are young. Because when you extend players, what you're basically doing is buying out years. So we're taking a look at someone named Mike Trout, and he is a nobody. He plays center field for the Los Angeles Angels, I've been told, but he is, just a complete non-factor in the league right now. So Mike Trout came up, had his nice little cup of coffee, 2011. That's his fraction, basically. 2012, sorry. Got his full season in, basically. 2021 was good to go. As you can see, would not have accrued enough service time to qualify for Super 2, because to qualify for Super 2, you basically need closer to 3 full seasons. He wasn't quite there. 2014, he's still on base salary. Maybe he gets $500,000 for winning MVP or coming second in MVP or something like that. But it's just little incentives. But basically, he's making no money still. Okay, so, but that would be under a normal trajectory. Because what what Mike Trout did was before his 2014 season, he signed a deal, and he cut a deal with the Angels. The Angels, who had this hot young player who they were paying $500,000 a year to, do things like get second in MVP voting and accrue 10 more seasons and just be the best player in baseball for 2 seasons, and they were paying him $500,000 a year. It was really burning a hole in their pockets, and he cut a deal. And the deal was 7 years, $144.5 million. So let's take a look at Mike Trout, he was on what I would call the normal trajectory because he got called up in 2011. So his trajectory would have been here. This is his fraction season, full season, minimum salary, minimum salary, minimum salary, arbitration, arbitration 2015, starting 2015, arbitration 2016, arbitration 2017, then free agent. But he just continues on with the Angels in 2018, and he will be with the Angels through 2020. So when you extend these players, okay, you have to ask yourself, what years am I buying? And what the Angels bought was 1 year where they could be paying him league minimum. Then they bought out 3 years of arbitration. Okay, Mike Trout doesn't go to arbitration anymore. He knows how much money he's going to make. It's already been agreed upon in his contract extension. And then the Angels also bought out 3 years of free agency. So instead of, if they would have had to, if Mike Trout was a free agent after 2017, he would have signed a deal for 10 years. I'm gonna say $60 million a year. So 10 years, $600 million total. With the Angels right now, he's gonna make 34 in 2018. He's gonna make about 34 in 2019, 34 in 2020. He'll make a little bit more or less depending on if he wins MVPs and keeps making All-Star games and things like that. Good chance he will, but so if you look at it from the Angels' perspective right now, he actually made $6 million this year. Then he made $1 million because he had a $5 million signing bonus on his contract. That's not listed, but for all intents and purposes, he made $6 million here. He made $6 million here. He made $16 million here, and he made $20 million here. And this was all within what his contract was. So he made about $22 million. Sorry, I'm doing the math here. Okay, let's say he made about $44 million. So he got bought out for a league minimum year and 3 years of arbitration for $44 million. If he'd gone and arbitrated, he would have made more, I bet. And then his free agency years were bought out to the tune of about 3 years for $100 million total, because he's making about $34 million a year for the next 3 years. And these are his, 2018, 2019, 2020. These were his free agency years that were bought out by the contract. So, and those free agency years, as we said, would probably be worth about $60 million. So, good deal all around for the Angels. Really, really good deal. They signed him on for about $20 million a year for 7 years. So, for a player like Mike Trout, that's awesome for them. That's absolutely fantastic. But also, Mike Trout's happy too. He gets to stick around where he likes to play, and he gets still a really big chunk of change in his pocket. And because all contracts like that are guaranteed in the MLB, Mike Trout doesn't have to worry ever again about money. So that's the good news for him. I have this terrible glare on my screen right now, sorry. Here's an example where it really benefited the team to sign someone to that extension, even more than it benefited the Angels. And that's the Astros with Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve came up, had his fraction, right? So service time fraction, came up. He had his 2 years, and so what the Astros decided to do is they decided to buy out 1 year where he could be earning the minimum, and 3 years of arbitration where he would have made a good bit of money. 3 years of arbitration where he made a good bit of money, but he signed on for a deal, Jose Altuve that was worth 4 years and $12.5 million, and it went from 2014 to 2017. Okay, so they paid him like $3 million a year, $3.1 million a year. And what did Jose Altuve do for the Astros in return? Well, as we wait for float, he accrued 27 wins above replacement. He was in the MVP voting every year. He was an All-Star every year. He won an MVP. He was a Silver Slugger every year. He was basically as good as anyone not named Mike Trout over that time period. So, and they paid him, $13 million over the course of 4 years. So, great deal for the Astros. They went and renegotiated. Now he's going to make some real money. So, as you can see, 5 years, $151 million extension coming starting 2018. So, he's making that money now, and it'll only go up. So, he'll be an Astro until 2024. So, now that we've discussed what arbitration means, now I've discussed what the service time really means. We can take a look and actually go inside a game of out-of-the-park baseball. All right, now we are in-game, and I'm going to take you through arbitration in-game itself. So we've talked about service time. We've talked about what it takes to qualify for arbitration versus free agency. we talked about how the service time clock starts ticking as soon as someone gets called up, and the only way to really slow it down is to send them back down to AAA in the middle of the season and have them miss games, basically. And if you send someone down to AAA, you can't bring them up for 10 days, and that's part of the reason why, you know. So I'm in my Marlins save. It's 2027 to 2028 off season. I just lost Game 7 of the World Series, which feels terrible. So now we are going to go do some arbitration with our friends who all have service times between 3 and 7 years. So, yeah, we are ready to arbitrate. Sorry, 3 and 6 years. 3 and 6 years. So Chris Piercy is arbitration eligible. He did not pitch for me last year because he got injured. He is pretty good. The stamina is not great, but everything else about him is good. So, yeah, our estimate says he's not going to earn that much more just because he didn't really pitch. But I'll throw a bone his way because I know he's good. And I just want to make sure everything's cool. Okay, Scoville had a bad year for me. Had a bad year, but pitched well in the playoffs. I have to decide. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to still offer him up the money, but I may trade him after that. Try to see if I can get something for him, or I may non-tender. I've got to think about that. I'm gonna skip him for now. Butcher, reliever for me, was kind of a non-factor, although he was all right in the playoffs. But I'm gonna withdraw. That's called a non-tender, and now he becomes a free agent. So Trey Cumby has been very good for me. Does have an injury, but he should be able to come back from that no problem. 1.3 million, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with... So this team offers is basically kind of an estimate. It's not actually what the player wants. I'm going to go talk to Cumby, and I'm curious as to how much he wants. He would do it for 1,430,000. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys. I'm just going to offer him up 1.4. He's probably going to take it, and I'm going to show you guys how, yeah, if you just offer an extension like that, negotiate it out, then you can just kind of skip the arbitration and the arbiter and the court case and the arguing and just decide on a number. So we'll just say for now that Trey Cumby and I agree on, I'll nickel and dime him down to 1360. Fair offer. I think so too. Kitagawa in his first year arbitration, yeah, doesn't want that much. So I'm cool with that. This guy's like my weird long reliever, so he'll end up with weird numbers like 15 and 3, but yeah, he's just kind of the swingman, I guess. Yeah, 1.4 is fine for him. Yeah, no problems with that. Ron Biner had a interesting go at it. Pitched bad, hasn't been that great for us, and I don't think I'm going to keep him around. I'm a non-tender. I can probably find a comparable reliever for about the same price. Jeremy Martinez, my backup catcher. He is a captain, and he still has expectations as bench player, so I really see no harm in keeping him around. That 850 estimate is fine by me. So we can stay. Nick Maldonado wants $3 million. He was worth 1.7 wins above replacement last year, but he did get hurt. He was worth 3.4 wins above replacement the season before that. $3 million seems a little bit much right now. Generally, you're gonna offer a little bit less, or just around the ballpark of $1 million per win above replacement for first year of arbitration. So you can see this is first year arbitration eligible. His service time is just over 3 years. So so the team offer by default is $3 million. I'm gonna go 2.7 million. I think, yeah, that's reasonable because he was 3.4 wins above replacement the season before. So I'm just kind of averaging him out, meeting him somewhere in the middle there. Cole Freeman is my utility infielder. Bad year for us, getting up there in age. Yeah, I just think for the age alone and the fact that he's, 2 of his last 3 years, his OPS plus has been about 50. Yeah, I'll just non-tender him. Cornelius Randolph, arbitration eligible, spent most of the year in AAA for me, and just not a guy that I want to pay Major League money to, you know. So we're gonna go back to Scoville here. I just kind of have to decide. Yeah, I'm just gonna basically keep him at what he's at right now, and I think that'll be okay. I may trade him in the offseason. My budget's low. I've got a lot of money wrapped up in 2 players who are very good, thankfully, but it's just like we're tight on cash. Aaron Hicks was honestly a revelation for me. 2-win season, didn't even make 300 plate appearances, but he's fragile, and the injury guy he's replacing is coming back. He was great for me, but I think he would probably want too much cash. Even for me, like 1.6 million right now is a lot of money. So for a guy that's not going to be an everyday player. So Grant Holmes, I would talk to Grant Holmes. I don't want to. Probably find someone comparable. I mean, I got Grant Holmes on a 1-year, 1.6 million deal to pretty much just fill in for me. So these guys are pitting free agents. They don't have anything to do with arbitration. Their contracts are up. I think, all these guys I just signed on 1-year deals. So Plawecki, it's fine. I don't need to negotiate that. Brady Singer was also pretty good for me. I'm curious at least about what kind of money he wants, although I can see that his greed is high. 3, it's not the money, it's just the years, really. I have a lot of pending minor league free agents. What I do before every year is I sign a bunch of minor league free agents, and oftentimes a lot of them just decide to leave. So some of them stick around too, so it's not all bad. But yeah, so these are the offers I'm offering in arbitration. I'm going to non-tender Butcher, Biner, Freeman, and Randolph. We've sort of changed around Maldonado's numbers, and so we're going to go argue about it, basically. So I am going to sim until the salary arbitration hearings. Alright, so to conclude our video, we're back. And salary arbitration days today. All of our players will meet with the arbiter. We'll all plead our cases. We've submitted our numbers. And the arbiter will choose between the number I submitted and the number that my player wants. So we are ready to arbitrate. Okay, Chris Piercy will receive 1.3 million. He demanded 1.375. We probably could have just offered him a contract at 1.3, probably would have taken it, but that's okay. Maldonado will receive 2.7 million, so arbitrator rules inside of us. Is it arbitrator or arbiter? I thought it was arbiter. Oh well. Scoville will pretty much make the same amount of money as last year. He demanded 8 million, so I'm glad that I went and fought him over that. Kitagawa will receive $1.41 million. We had offered 1.4 million even, so we basically went and fought over $10,000. Awesome. And then Jeremy Martinez will make $850,000 instead of the demanded 2 million. So overall, save ourselves some money by going to arbitration instead of giving in to our players' demands. That's good. So yeah, hopefully we have all learned something today. And I'm looking forward to doing my next video. I think this is probably it for the week for me, but I'll record some more next week for sure. Again, thank you for the support of the series, and I hope to continue to educate and teach both about real-life baseball concepts as well as how do they pertain to the game itself. So I will see you guys next week.